Hello.
Hi.
I'm going to turn on the light so I'm not backlit. Ooh. I was just eating the most amazing breakfast sandwich, and the clocks downstairs are a little slow, and I was thinking, oh, I got some time. And I looked at my phone, I was like, no, I
don't. Sorry. Yesterday my computer crashed seconds before I was supposed to be on here. So today I was trying to keep my computer from crashing, and I seemed to have managed that. But then when it came up, it was just me, and it said it was recording, and I was like, but who's recording me? What's going on?
Yeah, I had it set to automatically record.
Oh, is Ashley joining us today?
I'm not sure. I think my friend Jessie might be jumping on. She jumped on an hour late yesterday.
Oh, bummer.
Mm-hmm. She's like, I did it again. That's okay though. I have a funny story, or maybe you can relate to this. So I've been sick since Monday. This is definitely the most sick I've been in years. At least since 2019. I can't really think back farther than that. But I was like feeling really sick yesterday, like had a headache and just snot coming out everywhere. Not feeling good. And Tom's like, you could take some Tylenol, could take some medicine. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I could do that. And I took some medicine last night and slept like the best I have, like the entire time I've been up here, and woke up feeling so much better, and just thought, oh, yep, if this isn't just a perfect example of how when you have the resource and you choose not to use it, and then when you do use it, how amazing it is.
It's funny though, because I just forget that those resources even exist because I never use them. So it's like, 3 days into a screaming migraine, I'll think, oh, there might be some ibuprofen somewhere. It's just like, why don't I think of these things when in the beginning? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one then.
Because
I didn't even think about it. Tom's like, you could take some Tylenol. I was like, if I take Tylenol, maybe I should just take cold medicine. Usually there's Tylenol in that.
Yeah. That's funny.
So it's snowing here. I don't know if you can tell.
I can see the snow in the trees. I can't really see it falling.
Yeah, it's hard for me to even see it falling. It's about 12 degrees here. It warmed up a little bit.
Yeah, good. It actually rained here yesterday. I mean, I've been here since May, and I think that's the first full day of rain we've had. We've had summer monsoon storms in the afternoons, but to have a day where it was just gray and rainy the whole day, not once since May.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've always really enjoyed being in the desert after a rain.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite magical, or even during a rain.
And it smells good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I had this thought last night or this morning, I don't know, about yesterday, about the conversation we had yesterday. And I was thinking about you talking about being on the plane and having the man next to you sort of like, move away as you sort of filled that space. And I'm curious about that because, of course, that's just a pretty normal social interaction, right? You just try to give other people space. But of course, as women, we tend to do that more than men usually do. They just kind of fill their space and expect us to get out of the way. And I was curious about that because, of course, a lot of what we are trying to do is not just have women be more aware of their presence and who they are and where they are and how much power and space they have, but also to sort of bring everybody to the same level. So how do we balance that so that we're not like, pushing that person into their seat a little further while also holding our own space? And maybe that's just not something that is feasible in an airplane, of course, but
well, talking about that specific instance, in my mind, I'm going to have to contain the dogs in a moment. I'm always so hopeful that they will just like blissfully enjoy the peace.
No, because you start talking and you're into someone else. That's just so not allowed.
I know. Let me take care of the dog situation, and I'm going to come right back.
Okay.
I'm going to have to step away probably again in a little bit, but so in that specific instance, one, let me just say, I totally agree with you. I want everyone to be able to be their fullest expression and take up space, and for us to, coexist harmoniously in that, instead of it being this like crazy power dynamic. Now, talking about my specific experience on the plane, America is a very non-touch culture. And so touch, which is a form of nonverbal communication, you can never really anticipate how people are going to receive that. And there's been so many different research studies across different cultures that show, all the different levels of touch and how distinctly non-touch America is. And so what was happening there was, you would think that he would be okay with it. Some people would be okay with it, but it was clearly making him uncomfortable. Now, I don't know if it was making him uncomfortable because of some sexual dynamic or what. Like, it's not like I was like
You also said he was a big person, right? So
well, he wasn't like a huge person. He wasn't fat or obese. He was just like a tall man, like he was, that seat was small for him, but not like so small that he was overflowing in it. Like he could be contained in that space, but he just seemed, as I relaxed and expanded, he seemed to shrink. And it's not like I was like on the seat, it was just like, maybe I had like my arm on the armrest, or my legs not like pressed together, but like slightly relaxed, open. And so I feel like in that experience, you can't control how someone else is going to react. And I think the actual touch, like just the connection with another human, was like a little for him.
Yeah.
Because it would seem like when I would relax, he would feel it and withdraw, but then I could also feel him relax. And then maybe we would touch and it wouldn't be a big deal, I think, because he was like not really thinking about it at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so many dynamics at work there, right? And of course COVID and all the rest of it. But just I often see interactions like that, or experience interactions like that, and I am curious how they play out just in internal dialogues of different people. There's a little bakery here in town that I really like, and there are probably 6, maybe, it's a super busy place, and there are probably 6 young Latino men that work there all interface with the public. You know, they work the cashier, they get bread, they get baked goods, they make coffee, and they're all these young, beautiful men. And I really like them. They're all super nice, very friendly and pleasant. They all speak Spanish and English, and they switch back and forth all the time. And the other day I was there, and one of the guys came out and delivered something. And then when he walked back in, as he walked by, every single one of the guys that was working with him, he touched him in some way. You know, he put an arm on his shoulder, like touched this one guy's back. He kind of like hung his arm over another guy, just, you know, on his way past. And it was just such a natural interaction, and so genuine, that I was like, man, why are Americans so fucking uptight? You know, because we just don't do that. But you know, those so many other cultures are so much more engaged in that way. And you know, none of the other guys like reacted to it or jumped or flinched, or they just expected it. It was just a natural part of their day. You know, it was really nice to see.
Yeah, one of the things that we're going to get in today is this aspect of belonging and how that looks for us. And for me, touch is a symbol of belonging. You know, when I'm touched by people, when I touch people, and now that I've gotten older, touch was something that I studied in college quite a bit because I was so fascinated by it. Because we as humans have very distinct touch needs that aren't getting met if we're in a culture that's lacking touch. And so that has an impact on us in a very profound way that I think we're not conscious of. And I think about touch a lot. I think about touch, how, and now I have to be aware of, you know, people have boundaries around touch. And even if I'm just touching someone on the shoulder, things like that, like I used to do that more freely. And now I recognize that I could be violating people's boundaries without knowing it because of the cultural framework that I exist in. But I use touch as a sign of belonging, you know, whether I'm like rubbing someone's shoulder, and that's part of the framework of what I grew up in, that my family is very affectionate. You know, all of my cousins were very affectionate, whether it's like we cuddle together or hug or, you know, touch, kind of like what you were talking about. And I think that touch can be used in such a great way to communicate. Like it's my favorite way of, if I'm in a crowded place, let's just stick with the airport or something, and I have to get by someone, if I just take like my 2 fingers, not even my whole hand, 2 fingers, and like lightly touch someone on like their mid to low back, they will immediately move.
Yeah.
You know, not pushing, just if I just touch, they're like, look. You know,
out of here.
Yeah. I felt a connection with someone. It's freaking me out.
How to use cultural resistance to your advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that comes back to, you know, the level of trust I have with myself and confidence, and knowing that I'm okay with however they might perceive that, because people could perceive that as like, oh, how nice, someone was just like gently telling me that they needed to get by, versus someone being like, who does she think she is that she could touch me? Right? There's like a whole spectrum that people could experience, and I don't want to own any of those, right? I want to own, like, you know, I'm here to move through this world gently, and this is the best way I'm going to do it, instead of excuse me, you know, excuse me, or whatever. Just a little touch, and then I get by.
Yeah. Crazy world.
Well, let's I'm listening to assess the dog situation.
You know, there's real trouble when they're quiet.
Well, it's funny because I've been leaning more into one of my joys, which is working with animals and animal behavior as well as human behavior, right? And so I've been working with a lot of different people's dogs. And this is the longest I've worked with a husky. And I've heard a lot about like huskies' behavior and how they function and stuff, but it's so funny, like just the things that are inherently in different dog breeds. Just like, I think we have traits that are inherently in us as people. And yeah, he's a stubborn boy. Doesn't respect authority. He's like, are you kidding? I'm half wolf. I can do whatever I want. And he's a puppy too.
Yeah, even worse.
Mhm. I just, I want to take us into meditation, but I don't want to have us be interrupted. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to go bring him in really quick. Yep, short bark. Good choice. Okay, okay. Okay, so find a comfortable position for your body with the goal here just to allow as much relaxation as possible. We're going to trust the information that we receive from our body and keeping in mind that throughout this process, throughout this meditation, throughout this day, throughout this lifetime, we can always move away from something or leave if we need to. We're giving ourselves that power. We're owning that for ourselves. So whether you're lying on the floor or sitting in a chair, leaning against a wall or sitting on your favorite cushion, just start to notice this breath that we have. This breath that signals the beautiful cycle of life and death. Both are so necessary. And we're going to go out into the natural world today. So I want you to imagine that you're walking through a forest. And as you walk through this forest, thoughts may arise. And just like how we walk past a tree that's stationary, we're going to allow that thought to pass as well. We're going to acknowledge it, appreciate it, thank it for what it's trying to teach us, and release it. As we walk through the forest, we recognize that we are completely safe here. There's nothing here to harm us. There's only this space to hold us and teach us and show us true beauty. As you walk deeper into the forest, you notice that your shoulders start to relax, your gait starts to lengthen, your eyes start to look all around, up high at the treetops, maybe over to the right as you hear a bird chirping. What's that bird, you think? Show me yourself. I want to see you. Your gaze drops to the ground and you notice that on the ground, there's trees there too. Trees that have fallen over, that have now become part of the forest floor, that in that space, as you're gazing there, you realize it's almost impossible to delineate or separate life and death. But the tree has given life to something new. Maybe a home for some animals, a place for moss and mushrooms to grow, a place for squirrels to hide all of their treasures so that they have them throughout the winter. And you continue to notice this beauty as you walk deeper and deeper into the forest. And as you walk deeper into the forest, you notice the scenery starts to change. The trees get thinner. You notice that you're starting to walk uphill. Maybe you feel your muscles burning a little bit from the change in activity. You're okay with these changes. Higher and higher you climb until the trees have left you, and instead you see a new type of ground cover. The plants are smaller, closer to the ground, just as diverse. Remembering to keep breathing. And we are in a deep space of allowing and safety. So whatever comes up, whatever you see, you know that you can come back to this breath. That we're experiencing something truly beautiful here in this landscape. We climb higher and higher onto this mountain. We've now left any human trail. Might be wandering along a sheep's path. Higher and higher we climb until you get to the very top. And it's here that you take some rest. Perhaps you find a little rock to sit on or a little nook to protect you from any wind. And you gaze back and you look at how far you've come. That this experience, this time is so precious that no one will ever be where you are right here at this time and space. But this moment is reserved for you and you alone. And now I want you to just relax into the mountain. Just be held by this huge, massive force that has risen from the depths of the sea, that has overcome the pressures of earth pressing against each other, that's weathered these earthquakes and storms and perhaps created them to rise to what it is now. This is your mountain, your space, your beautiful creation of everything that you've been through, everything that you will go through. And it is not only your higher self, but it is your highest self. And as we sit here, I want you to take a moment, several moments actually, to appreciate what this space entails. From recognizing the soils that you were born into, the experiences that you've had already, the relationships that you've had, the connections you've shared. And knowledge that this mountain can look however you want it to, that you have the power alone to shape it, to grow it. So I want you to notice if anyone else appears around you, or there's a vision you get for what you might see yourself doing. And just rest here. Just be curious, look around. We're going to experience this curiosity in silence. Whatever has transpired here, you're going to show appreciation and gratitude for that. Perhaps you notice a special rock that you move over to where you were sitting, or look down and gaze at a beautiful flower. Beautiful. That everything surrounding you, including yourself, is beautiful. And when we think of the word beautiful, I find it as no coincidence that you could also say that beautiful means to be you to fullness. Beautiful. Be you to fullness. In this full, appreciative, gratuitous space, it's time to descend the mountain. Perhaps you ride a horse down, or take a pack raft or a raft, or maybe you just walk the steps you came up, picking your way along the path. Noticing the alpine plants, the different flowers, the purples, the whites, the pinks, the yellows. Here for our appreciation. And we step down deep into the forest again. The trees begin to rise up and enveloping us. The presence of the mountain is still there, always available. Knowing that in this natural space, you belong. We're going to come back to our bodies, recognizing any messages we might be receiving, any movements that we might need to make. We start to make them. When you feel ready, we're going to move into some journaling. So I'll have you open your eyes, open your journal, write a little bit about what you experienced. And then I want you to write about what it felt like to belong. What does it feel like for you to belong? What does it feel like to be you to fullness? Who are you surrounded by? What do you see? Where are your interests? What brings you joy? How do you play? We'll take 10 minutes for this. This is a free writing situation, so I don't want you to think too much about it. I just want you to put your pen to paper and just allow whatever needs to come out to come out.
Is that the dog sneezing?
She heard you and or heard something, and so yeah, she's like, "Do I need to protect you?"
Chuff, 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 chuff.
There's 3 more minutes.
I don't know that I have anything else to write in those 3 minutes. I was in this complete relaxed sort of dream state between, meditative where you have no physical presence and you're just kind of part of everything. But it was like that was all. That's kind of hard to describe, I guess, but
Did you write about what it felt like to belong, what it looked like to belong?
no, I felt fully present, like there were no boundaries, like there was no physical self and no boundaries. So I guess in that sense, it's impossible to not belong, right? It's just, you're just kind of like part of everything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
What a powerful gift. I came across something recently. Hopefully I can articulate it in the way that it was presented to me, but it was something to the effect of, we think we learn ourselves or know ourselves when we're deep in our life. But the truth is that it's actually when we get removed from our everyday and placed in something, usually the natural world, for a long enough time, is when we really will distill down to our own essence. And I experienced that for the first time when I went on my first Grand Canyon trip for 23 days. And it was wild, the experience of all these things melting off of me in the natural world.
Yeah, because I've spent a lot of time in field camps in different places, especially when they're fairly isolated, I feel like it takes about a week, 10 days, 2 weeks before all the modern day life, self-imposed crud just kind of, as you said, melts away, and then you can be entirely there and engaged. And maybe because I spend so much time alone in wild places, I don't know that I tap into that more easily, because I can get pretty frantic when I'm surrounded by people all the time. But I feel like I've removed so many of those everyday things that people get hung up on, that just intentionally remove them from my life, that it's a little easier for me to find that space again. But I think time is one of those huge elements that most people really need a chunk of time to evaporate all of that off and tap in. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that. And that definitely resonates with me and my experiences of going out to wild places and being there for a while, and how, just how freeing it feels to be so present and to feel so integral, and also like insignificant, but like not in like a bad way. I don't know, it's hard to explain. There's
Yeah,
probably
no,
a
it's
word for it, I
exactly,
just don't know it.
that's insignificant is exactly the right word. And because it's, we're just a drop in the ocean. And I feel that almost every day. And I sometimes, especially when I had quote unquote real jobs, I often saw in my colleagues how they felt they were so important in everything they did, that they couldn't take time for themselves. They couldn't go on vacation because their clients would not tolerate that. And it's like, no, you're really not that important. Not in a mean way or a bad way, but just in the grand scheme of things, it's like, if you can't take time for yourself, then that makes you insignificant. And if you can't be yourself, then that makes you insignificant, versus being insignificant in the grand scheme of the wild world and the natural world and the expanse of time and life that we are part of, because we are such a small part of that.
Mm-hmm. I heard, I'll call it like a spiritual summary the other day, and it plays on exactly what you said, of that, like, we're just a drop in the ocean. But the statement was, we're a drop in the ocean and we are the ocean.
Yeah, I've heard that. I love that. Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, if that doesn't explain like where I'm at in my spiritual journey, I don't know what else does. Because that's really something wild to think about. But it seems so true. And I feel like there's a level of ownership that comes when you feel that way. Even if you feel like I'm just a drop in the ocean, but that if you're a drop in the ocean, you are also the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's
That's actually what I wrote here, was that just I felt just a part of everything. I just felt, the classic meditation statement of, we're all one, or, everything is one. There is nothing outside of you. It's all an appearance in consciousness, and you're part of all of that, always. And that's just how I felt in that sort of dream state, that just completely relaxed, and just like I had expanded into that universe, and the universe had not withdrawn, but had expanded into me as well, contracted, as you said. Everything was expanding and contracting, right? So, as you said yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's something wild to think about. I'm thinking right now just about all the different journeys I've been on, where I've been open to receiving wisdom from like the universe, right? Or teachings from the universe. And one of the first kind of lessons that I learned was just this circular nature of life. I don't know. It's hard. It's kind of hard to explain, but easy to explain at the same time. Like, even if you just imagine like something and then imagine its opposite, right? And place them opposing one another. If you were to zoom out far enough, they're connected still in some spectrum, right? And if you zoom out far enough, these two things that are seemingly opposed appear as if they're actually together, right?
Mm-hmm. The space between them becomes less distinct because you've moved further away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's just so interesting. I feel like I can get lost in thinking about that for a long time.
A long time, yeah. There's always so much there, and too often we have an agenda, and that's part of the time thing, right? You need the time to pursue those with no barriers and no. That was actually something else I wrote too. Just there are no boundaries. There's just no space between me and anything else. It's all else. It's just kind of all the same thing. Is that my voice just started echoing?
Oh, I can't hear it. That's weird.
Let me disconnect these. How is that? Is that all right? That's weird. I've been having a lot of trouble with my.
It's been fine for me the whole time. Yesterday there was some echoing when I think when Ashley was talking, but today I haven't noticed that at all.
Maybe it's just more voice in my head.
Could be.
I have a little trouble with the internet here, I think, too, so it might just be that temporary glitch.
So I'm curious, Tamara, with all your traveling and experiences that you've had in your life, have you ever gone to a place where you were surrounded by people, where you felt very much like you belonged? Or maybe there was like a deep validation that you received?
Not that I can think of in that context. I mean, there are places that I've been that I was comfortable in, but not necessarily surrounded by people, or in places where there were a lot of people. I think I did a trip in Botswana with a group of Europeans that was very, it was interesting because, of course, it was this spectacular place, and there was so much wildlife, and so many vast expanses of African sage and acacia trees and desert. And none of the Europeans had ever been to Africa. And, yeah, I don't think any of them had ever been there. I'd never been there before. And none of them had any wilderness experience. None of them had ever been camping before. But they all, Europeans are just have such a different approach to life, and they're much more, I don't know, their sensibilities are more aligned with mine, I think. So I was very comfortable in that group, even though I was the only American, and they were all just like, Americans, we hate Americans. And in the end, they all actually really liked me and were very open and accepting, like, okay, maybe not all Americans are bad,
So when you say that European sensibilities seem more matched to yours, what does that look like? What do you mean by that exactly?
They're much more pragmatic and more practical in their approach to daily life, I think. And they're much more open to, at least the Europeans that I know, they're much more open to just people doing their own thing, as long as it's more, as long as it's not disruptive to others. It's not impinging on anyone else's rights or responsibilities or anything like that, I think. And I think often they're more streamlined, if you will, because the school systems are in many countries you have to decide what you're going to do when you're quite young, and you go into an apprenticeship or you go on to an advanced college, or so they're much more, not necessarily that they know what they want to do when they're younger, but I feel like they have a better opportunity to explore those things, rather than you go through these years of school and then you have to go to college. At least in our, in the upper middle class, I guess you have to go to college because that's what's expected of you, even if you have no clue what you want to do. And they offer much more support, I think, and connection to individuals to help them decide where they want to go and what they want to do, and how best to approach that. There's just,
yeah, because isn't the gap year a European thing?
I'm sure, yeah.
I think it's getting more adopted by the US and some communities in the US, but I think I first heard about gap year in Europe, and whenever I looked, they have whole gap year programs all over the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And that'd be cool to have a gap year program in Alaska. Just side note, that might be totally rad.
I wanted to do that when I got out of high school. I wanted to do a gap year, and my parents were like, absolutely not. And I paid for all of my college education, but my dad was sick, and his goal basically was to see all of us graduate from college, and I was the last one. So I kind of, definitely wasn't going to be given that opportunity. He died less than a year after I graduated. So not to say that he wouldn't have done that, or it would have been different if I had taken a gap year, but basically I achieved his goal. I graduated before he died. So yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of European friends, and I've traveled quite a lot, and I've spent time in lots of places with. I just often feel like that space is so much more welcoming in a lot of ways, so much less judgmental. Maybe I don't know, especially about I haven't really done anything the way it was supposed to be done. And now I think that's a lot of that's changed, but nobody worked like I did when I was in my 20s and 30s, and even into my 40s. It was still pretty unusual and unexpected. So
and when you say nobody worked like I did, how would you summarize how you worked?
I had a professional job, but it was always seasonal, and it was I was hustling pretty much every season, because I'd work 3 months and then I'd have a month or 2 months off. And in those month or 2 months, I was looking for another job or another project or another place to go. And, sometimes I would work from March until November and then not work at all until March again. And, now that's much more common, I think. And then it was basically ski bums and rafters, right? You rafted in
Yeah.
in the summer, and then you went to the ski resort and worked in the winter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so as someone who was considered a professional as a biologist, it wasn't what you did. You did seasonal work until you got a full-time permanent job someplace. And I never did that full-time permanent job thing. I applied for a lot of them, but I never got those jobs ever.
So interesting how those jobs are elusive, because I have a friend who's younger than me who she's not a biologist, but she she went to a really good school and has a great education and works seasonally for a long time and has tried really, really hard, like done all the things that you're supposed to do to be able to get these full-time positions, which I'm sure you did, but even to a higher degree. And it's just like eluded her. And it's like so interesting to me.
I think
But it's not really that competitive, because she's like applied for positions that like PhD people are getting, but they're like way overqualified for them. And it's like, does the US need more jobs in these type of fields or what?
I think there's a combination of things. There are now a lot of PhDs, and often I think any organization that can get a PhD to do a job that they are way overqualified for, they'll take that person, because they're not paying them as a PhD, they're paying them at a master's level or a bachelor's level. But because the PhD people are applying for the jobs, they're going to give them the job and not pay them significantly more that they would typically get as a PhD necessarily. And I think in retrospect, I think a lot of people were intimidated by me because of me. I just kind of did what I do, and I mean, I never overtly said anything that I can remember that I felt was completely out of line, and I certainly felt qualified for all of the jobs I applied for, and was told often that my experience was amazing, and that I had all everything that they wanted, but I never got the jobs. And I think that they were concerned that I might just be me and say, well, why are we doing this? Why don't we do something else? Or just too much potential conflict, maybe, even though I don't think of myself as a person that creates conflict, but I think just by presenting ideas sometimes that aren't considered acceptable, it's threatening to those who are just maintaining the status quo. That's that's kind of my retrospect synopsis, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. I often got contracts out of those applications, but never the actual job. I'd get like a seasonal contract or something, but never the job I applied for.
It's really interesting hearing you speak about yourself in that way and your perceptions of why you don't think you got them, because my girlfriend, who I was just telling you about, she has a very similar energy. That's one of the things that I really love about her, is that, she says what she feels like needs to be said, and is creative, and, growth mindset, and a really hard worker. And I never thought about it before as people were, to me, I could see how people would be intimidated by that, or just feel like it wasn't going to be a good fit because they were walking these like steps that have already been laid out, and they didn't want to deviate from them, which seems quite ridiculous to me.
Yeah, and it depends on the focus and the organization, right? But sometimes it's if they're really kind of open and ready to expand and make some changes and do things like that, then they're open to those growth mindsets. But if you're just kind of staying the course, everything's locked in place, then you're just banging your head against the wall. And maybe they saw me doing that a little too often and decided it wasn't worth it. Maybe I saw myself doing that a little too often. I don't know.
So interesting. Well, it's the top of the hour. I would love to chat more. I don't have any more plans for the rest of the day. I don't know what you have plans. Oh, I'm going to work on a puzzle, but
no, my mom is, I didn't realize it was that late. That hour went really quickly. My mom's coming for dinner, so I'm she offered, she basically said, I didn't buy a turkey. And I was like, it's okay. She said, so I have this canned ham. And I was like, oh no. I'm going to put pineapple on it. Oh, absolutely not.
So are you making dinner then, or is it a joint?
No, I'll make dinner.
Wonderful. What are you going to make? Do you know yet?
I made a turkey chili. Yeah. And
Ooh,
I'll make some cornbread to go with it. So
sounds wonderful.
is Tom there?
Well,
with
I
you?
planned to talk about motherhood, but we didn't get there, and that's totally okay. But I'm going to send you this quote that I came across today that brought me to tears as I was like just really contemplating it, because going back to like thinking about the birth story of Jesus and looking at it in a little different context, this idea of like birth and life being so precious and so wonderful, and also recognizing like the power of the mother and that energy of motherhood and what that means. And anyways, I'm going to send it to you. I think you're going to really love it.
Okay, very good.
I love you. Thank you for being here, and have a great time today. And send me a text of your chili, because I love food.
All right. Thank you. Thanks. And thanks for being here today too.
Yeah.